Okay, so I want to start today with a bit of a mental exercise. I want you to picture two locations that, on the surface, have absolutely nothing to do with each other.
All right, I'm with you. Set the scene.
So, location one, Central Java, Indonesia, a city called Tegel. Think traditional values, very tight-knit communities, really conservative social structures. The kind of place where family reputation is everything.
Got it. Grounded, traditional, a world away.
Now, location two,
Yeah.
the San Fernando Valley, California. But not just any version of the valley. I'm talking late 90s, early 2000s.
Hey.
The absolute peak of the VHS to DVD boom, the capital of the global adult entertainment industry.
Okay, so we're talking about two places that are, what, 9,000 miles apart geographically, but culturally,
Yeah.
they might as well be on different planets.
Exactly. And yet, today's deep dive is about the one person who somehow managed to crash these two worlds together. We're talking about a woman who became a huge star in the valley, while at the same time creating this diplomatic incident in Indonesia that involved a literal government official begging her to come home.
It's such a wild story. We are unpacking the life of Jade Marcela, or born Claudia Marcela. And you're right, her story is this bizarre intersection of, like, the American dream, the explosion of adult media, and the intense pressure of heritage.
And just to set the stakes here, she isn't just a footnote. She's widely cited as the first woman of Indonesian descent to become a bona fide professional star in the U.S. adult industry. Her resume is, well, frankly, looking at the numbers, it's exhausting.
It's extensive, and what's so fascinating to analyze isn't just the what of her career, but the where and the why, because you have this clash between a very niche part of American entertainment and the expectations of a Japanese family.
And we are definitely going to get into the mayor incident because I still can't wrap my head around a politician getting involved. But let's start with the basics. Who is Jade Marcela? Because even her origin story feels like a multiple choice question where all the answers might be wrong.
That's a great way to put it. And honestly, that ambiguity is often by design in this industry. So, here are the facts we're pretty sure of. She was born June 22, 1980. Birth name is Claudia Marcela.
But where was she born? Because I'm seeing conflicting reports. Some bios say Hawaii, which, paints this picture of an Asian American island girl. But then you dig a little deeper, and the Indonesian sources are very adamant she's from Tegel.
Right. And this is where we have to put on our analyst hats. In the adult world, especially back then, marketing was everything. Selling a performer as an exotic beauty from Hawaii is a very specific fantasy. It's approachable, it's American, but other.
It's safe. It's paradise.
Exactly. But the evidence points pretty strongly to her being born in Indonesia and moving to the U.S. The narrative is that she came to Uncle Sam's land to, change her fortune.
Which is the classic immigrant story. You move to America to find opportunity. Usually that means, what, opening business, going to school. I'm guessing your parents back in Java didn't envision the opportunity being, well, what she ended up doing.
Likely not. The sources suggest she came looking for pretty standard work. But Los Angeles has a way of diverting plans. She got into the adult industry around 1998, maybe 99, right after she turned 18. And she didn't just dip a toe in, she pivoted hard.
Before we get into the films, can we talk about her look? Because in an industry where everyone is trying to stand out, she had some very specific identifiers. She was tiny, right?
Very petite, about 5'3", maybe 100 pounds soaking wet. But what really made her the Jade Marcela brand were the tattoos.
I love that fans actually use these to track her. Like, wait, is that Jade? Check for the dragon.
It's true. She had a dragon between her shoulder blades, Chinese characters on her neck and ankle, but there's one tattoo that I think gives us the best glimpse into her actual personality.
Please tell me it's the teddy bear paws.
It is the teddy bear paw.
I saw that in the notes and I had to pause. She's working in this intense adult environment doing scenes that were not mild, and she has cute little teddy bear paws tattooed on her ankle.
It's that dichotomy again. It's almost wholesome. It reminds you that she was basically a teenager when she started. But my favorite detail about her isn't the ink. It's a quote she gave in 2002 about what she looks for in a partner.
Oh, the ideal man checklist. This was gold.
It really was. She said she didn't care about looks. She wasn't chasing models. She wanted respect, good treatment, the standard stuff. But then she dropped the one non-negotiable requirement.
Clean fingernails.
Clean fingernails.
I have to say, that is so incredibly grounded. It's so specific. It's not, he needs to drive a Ferrari. It's please have basic hygiene.
It humanizes her immediately. You can be a superstar, but at the end of the day, you just want a guy who washes his hands. It suggests a desire for some kind of order in a life that was Probably very chaotic.
Speaking of chaotic,
hmm
let's look at the career. You said she started around 99. This wasn't a hobby. She was grinding.
It was absolutely a grind. The film counts vary, but we're looking at anywhere from 100 to over 230 credits. And remember, her main performing career was roughly 1999 to 2006.
So she's cranking out dozens of films a year. That is a full-time job and then some.
It is. And we have to talk about the moment her career really crossed over into mainstream pop culture. The Snoop Dogg connection.
Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style. The year 2000, I remember this. It was a huge deal because it wasn't just some adult film you hid. It was, like, everywhere.
It was a cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
Produced by Larry Flynt, hosted by Snoop. It signaled the mainstreaming of porno chic, and Jade Marcela was right there. She performed in a scene with Mr. Marcus in that film.
That feels like a validation point.
Yeah,
If you're in the Snoop Dogg movie, you're not just an extra. You've kind of made it.
precisely. It meant you had name recognition. But we also have to be real about what she was famous for. We have to keep this YouTube safe, so we'll use industry terms, but Jade had a very specific reputation.
The sources call her an anal queen, which I think the listeners can decode. But this wasn't just standard stuff, right?
No. In the industry, there are different tiers of intensity. You have the romantic, soft-focus content, and then you have the, let's call it, endurance content. Jade Marcela specialized in the latter. She was known for posterior intimacy, often in scenes that were very physically demanding.
The sources mentioned she worked with a director named Max Hardcore. And just the name Max Hardcore sounds, well, it sounds ominous.
It should. Max Hardcore was a controversial figure known for pushing the absolute limits of the industry. His content was often described as aggressive or extreme. The fact that Jade filmed with him tells us something important about her professional capability.
She was basically a stunt woman.
That is a perfect analogy. An endurance athlete. She wasn't doing the candlelight and roses scene, she was doing the heavy lifting. And marketing-wise, the industry leaned hard on her ethnicity. You see titles like Asian Letters, Pacific Rim University.
And some titles that I'm not even going to say out loud because they have aged incredibly poorly.
Agreed. But it reflects the era. The early 2000s market was obsessed with categorization. Her ethnicity was her genre tag.
Okay, so we have the island girl persona, the extreme performance, the Snoop Dogg fame. But then the story takes a turn that I honestly did not see coming. It stops being a solo act.
Enter Naomi Marcela,
Her sister.
her younger sister.
Hold on, I need to pause here. Her sister joined her in the industry.
She did.
That changes the whole narrative for me. Usually the story is lone wolf hides secret life from family. But here, she brings her little sister into the fold.
It really complicates that exploitation narrative people often try to apply. I mean, if Jade was being coerced or hated her life, she probably wouldn't have opened the door for her sister. The fact that Naomi joined suggests that Jade felt safe enough, or at least successful enough, to bring family in.
Or it suggests they realized that the Marcela sisters was a much more lucrative brand than just Jade Marcela.
That's the business angle. And it worked. The industry loves a taboo, and sisters performing together, even just in the same scene, is a massive marketing hook.
Oh.
They did films like Taboo Sisters. They solidified the Marcela name as a franchise.
But here's the problem with becoming a franchise. Fame travels, and eventually it traveled all the way back to Tegel.
And this brings us to part 3, the clash. The Tegel incident.
This is the part of the research that just blew my mind. We're fast-forwarding to 2011. Jade's been famous for years, the internet is everywhere, and the mayor of Tegel decides he needs to get involved.
Mayor Iqbal Jaya.
Okay, so picture this. You're a successful adult film star in California. You're directing now, you have a life, and suddenly a politician from a city you left years ago makes a public statement about you. What did he even do? Did he issue a warrant or something?
You'd think so, right? If this were a movie script, that would be the dramatic tension. But Mayor Iqbal Jaya took a route that I find honestly more baffling. He didn't want to arrest them. He wanted to save them.
Save them.
He publicly invited them to come back to Tegel. He offered to rehabilitate them. And this is the kicker. He offered to help them find polite and dignified work.
Polite and dignified work. What does that even mean? Was he going to get Jade Marcela, the star of Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style, a job as a filing clerk at the municipal office?
It highlights this massive, almost incomprehensible cultural chasm, doesn't it? To the mayor, he likely saw himself as a benevolent father figure. He couldn't conceive that these women were financially successful entrepreneurs. He just saw their work through the lens of moral degradation.
But the arrogance of it. Come home and I'll find you a nice, quiet job. It completely ignores their agency.
It does, but look at it from his perspective. In many Asian cultures, especially traditional Javanese culture, an individual's actions reflect on the whole community. The Marcella sisters weren't just embarrassing their parents. In the mayor's eyes, they were bringing shame on the entire city of Tegel.
So this was just a PR move for the city.
Exactly. By publicly offering to fix them, he was performing his duty as the moral guardian of the region. It was all about collective face-saving.
Did they ever respond? I'm just imagining Jade reading this in LA and just rolling her eyes.
There's no record of them accepting the offer, and frankly, why would they? By 2011, Jade was already transitioning out of performing anyway. But the offer stands as this bizarre historical artifact. It's a collision of small-town politics and global internet fame.
It really is surreal. But you mentioned she was transitioning out. Let's talk about the final act of her career. Because it wasn't all red carpets and defiant tattoos. The sources do mention that the life took a toll.
We have to be honest about the reality of the industry in that era. It was high pressure, physically grueling. One of the sources notes that Jade did struggle with substance abuse, specifically mentioning cocaine, and that friends eventually had to intervene.
That feels like a very common, tragic part of the Valley story in the early 2000s.
Unfortunately, yes. When you're performing at that level of intensity, substance use often becomes a coping mechanism. But it's important to note that she seems to have moved past that. She didn't stay stuck in that cycle.
She also made a pivot that showed she had real business savvy. She didn't just stay in front of the lens forever.
Right. Around 2005 or 2006, she moved into directing. She has about 6 director credits for titles like Jade Marcela's Asian Letters.
Why does that matter? Is it just a vanity credit?
No, it matters because it represents agency. Instead of just being the talent who's told where to stand and what to do, she was taking control of the production. She was calling the shots. It's a way of reclaiming power in an industry that can be very exploitative.
But then she eventually retires. And the reason or the conditions of her retirement, well, they bring us right back to the clean fingernails thing. This is the biggest irony of the whole story for me.
This comes from an interview with her sister, Naomi. According to Naomi, Jade got married.
Okay, happy ending.
Well, yes, but her husband had some very specific rules.
The sources say he forbade her from performing with other men.
That's the word that was used. Once she was married, the husband drew a hard line. No more scenes with male performers.
There's a heavy irony there I can't get past. She leaves Tegel, defies the conservative culture, ignores the mayor, builds this massive career based on, like, extreme sexual freedom. And then she marries a guy who says, no more men, and she listens.
It is the paradox of her life, isn't it? She rebelled against the patriarchy of her hometown only to accept the restrictions of her marriage.
Or maybe she just wanted that clean fingernails guy so bad she was willing to compromise the career to keep him.
That's a very valid read. It humanizes her again. It shows that despite all the extreme films, the desire for a traditional domestic life was always there in the background.
And she did compromise for a bit, right? She didn't quit cold turkey.
True. She shifted her content strategy. She briefly moved to working exclusively in all-female scenes, girl content, for a studio called Defiance Films.
Defiance Films, that's fitting.
It was a compromise, you know? She could keep working, but only within the boundaries her husband set. But eventually, reports indicate she retired fully. The sources describe her current status, or at least as of the last updates, as being a housewife.
Which brings us full circle. The mayor of Tegel wanted her to come home and have a dignified domestic life. She stayed in America, but ended up as a housewife anyway, just on her own terms.
Precisely. She achieved a version of domesticity, but it was one she chose, funded by her industry earnings, not one that was handed to her by a politician trying to save face.
So when we zoom out and look at the whole file on Jade Marcela, what's the big takeaway? Is she a cautionary tale? A success story?
I think Jade Marcela is a case study in globalization. She represents a very specific era, that bridge between VHS and the internet. She was a face of representation for Indonesia in the West, however controversial. But more than that, she illustrates the friction that happens when someone from a traditional background succeeds in a Western taboo industry.
It's the ultimate culture shock.
It is. She navigated the American dream in a way that was completely unrecognizable to the culture she came from. She took the opportunities available to her, even the extreme ones, and built a career that lasted nearly a decade.
And she did it while demanding clean fingernails. I'm telling you, that detail is the key to her whole psychology.
It really might be. It shows she held standards, even when the world thought she didn't.
Before we wrap up, here's a thought to leave you with. We talked about the mayor trying to call her home in 2011. That was over a decade ago. But the world has changed so much since then.
Drastically.
Today, we have OnlyFans, we have instant global streaming, we have social media where everything is viral in seconds. The barrier between home and the industry is basically gone.
That is so true. In 2000, you could maybe hide your career from your relatives in Java for a while. Today, impossible.
So if Jade Marcela started today, could she even separate those worlds at all? Or does the modern internet mean that you can never truly escape the conservative expectations of your heritage, no matter how far you move?
That is the question, isn't it? The world is a much smaller place now than it was when Jade was getting those teddy bear paws tattooed on her ankle.
Something to mull over. Thanks for diving deep with us today into a story that was way more complicated than just a filmography.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you on the next one.